group coaching is an easy way to get more value for your time, stop trading time for money. We talked before the show about that a little bit. And in doing things like, group coaching is a great way to solve what I call the therapy model of pricing, which is, one session costs $100 and 4 sessions cost $350 and 8 sessions,
right. It's like
you just
a bundle.
keep lowering your price.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But you can design a group program, and then you're charging, you're lowering that price by bringing, and you're not one-to-one coaching, it's one to many or one to a few coaching, so you're taking advantage of that leverage.
Hi, and welcome to the Entrepreneur Freedom Solutions Show. I'm Eric Asbeck, and today our guest is Jay Fairbrother, and we're going to be talking about pricing. I was going to make a joke, but we're going to be talking about pricing and group programs. And the reason for the joke was like, I don't know if you guys want to hear about this. This could be a hot topic. And Jay is, he's a longstanding entrepreneur and a business coach, and he's going to tell you more. So, hey, Jay, how are you?
Hey, Eric, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
You're welcome. Rambling introduction, but so just because we talked about that, so how'd you get started? What brought you here?
So my entrepreneurial journey started a long time ago, over 30 years ago. I have founded, bought, and sold multiple 7-figure businesses. The profitarchitects.com, which is my current coaching business, is my 9th business. And if you can do that math, it's pretty easy to figure out that while I've had some nice success, I've also had some massive failures.
It's always, everything is an experiment, right? And you don't stop. It's like you could just hit one of those and stop, and then you're done, or you keep going.
Yeah. And then if you're like me, you're never satisfied with just one business at a time. You've got to have 3 or 4. So, I may have an ADD problem as well.
I was like, here comes Jay. He's got another idea. I've been accused of that. That's actually a quote with my name in it from past life. So cool. I interrupted you as you were kind of going through your story there. Or is that what you wanted to say?
No, so my journey, I kind of call it rags to riches to rags to riches. I had my first company, I started with nothing. I built it to a couple hundred employees, 10 million in annual revenue, and I sold it in 2004. I bought some other businesses, had all these investments going, and after the 2008-2010 financial crisis, I'm one of the people you read about in the newspapers where I lost everything, and I mean everything. So I quite literally went from being a multimillionaire living in a mansion to living in my friend's basement without even owning a car. And
it's kind of hard to conceive. I mean, I feel for you.
Yeah. It's hard. It's still hard for me to conceive. It's like, how did that even happen? I describe it as, because it didn't happen like all at once. I mean, it was like a process over about 3 years. And it was like, if you can imagine a toilet bowl taking 3 years to drain, and just watching it and not being able to do anything about it, that's pretty much, and I hey, look, I made a lot of mistakes, and I certainly, I don't place the blame outside and say, well, it was the financial crisis. There were decisions I made, and I got to live with them.
Yeah. And learn from them.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the strengths that I think you bring to the table. It's like, don't do what I did. So we're talking about pricing, and we're talking about group coaching. So let's just kind of mix it up. So what are some of the kind of common myths about pricing, and how would you debunk them?
So I got into, I have a pricing masterclass that I created, and the reason that evolved was because over the past few years, I've been doing a lot of sales coaching for early stage entrepreneurs, coaches, solopreneurs, speakers, etc. And in the process, I've done worked with over 100 early stage entrepreneurs one-on-one with sales coaching, and pricing always is part of that discussion, because
Yeah.
my sales coaching is focused on those selling conversations to try to get the high end clients, right?
Right. Right.
You have something that's lower priced, under $1,000. It's easy to sell that through like a marketing funnel or a webinar or whatever. But
Mhm.
once you get into the 1,000 plus, and thousands arbitrary, but
Right.
once you get into those higher end clients, it usually takes a one-on-one conversation. So as part of that, I'm always saying, okay, so when I'm a prospect, then I ask you, how much does it cost? What do you say? And yeah, that's where just people fall apart, because they're not confident in their pricing. You see changes in their voice tone and body language, and
Mm.
there's a lot of mistakes that people can make with pricing. One of which is just that it's too confusing. People get into, well, I've got this program and it includes this, this, and
Yeah.
this, and
Yeah.
this, and then I
Yeah.
got this program and it's this, this, and this, and this, and they get back into talking about process. Another big mistake is that they disclose the pricing too early in the conversation.
Yeah.
So you seem to be having a good conversation with somebody, and they ask how much it costs, and the worst thing you can do if it's too early is actually name a price, because
Mhm.
any price you name before the person's like chomping at the bit to work with you,
Yeah.
whatever price comes out of your mouth is too much.
Yeah.
So the other, you asked about myths. The other myth is that if you raise prices, you're going to lose clients. And we do an exercise in the pricing masterclass where we actually look at the math
Yeah.
and give some scenarios and say, okay, if you have 100 customers at this price, if you raised it to this, you jacked it up 30 or 40%, how
Mhm.
many of those 100 do you think you'd lose? And almost always people put a number well below when you do the math and say, well, do you realize you could actually lose 30 of those 100 customers and still be making the same revenue?
Right.
So we go
Right.
through that, and then obviously so in working with these 100 plus coaches, there, I have yet to meet a coach who has any kind of a system or formula for setting their prices in the first place. I mean, it's kind of like throwing a dart against a wall.
Right. Right.
And that's part of what I developed in the pricing masterclass, is the ultimate pricing formula. So it's a template that walks you through all the things you at least need to factor in to create pricing. And the most important part of that is increasing the perceived value of whatever your offer is. And you can do that through, bonuses and urgency and scarcity and exclusivity and risk reversal, and how quickly somebody can achieve some kind of result, even if it's not the end result.
Right.
Building quick wins. There's lots of things like that. So the myth is that if I raise prices, I'm going to lose clients. So
Right.
I try to help people learn how not to raise prices and not lose any clients.
Yes. And when you talked about all those different kind of ways to kind of add value, urgency, like all those things, I've kind of been through this kind of stuff myself. And when I first kind of heard that, I was like, I got to do all those things all at once, and I've got to figure them all out, but I've come to realize, like, you just pick one, and and you work that. And it's like, if it's adding bonuses, it's like, great, what bonuses are you going to add? If it's adding
Yeah.
urgency, so, and you get that, but you get that result. You don't move to the next. I mean, at least for me, that's because otherwise I go crazy, and then sort of like, okay, now what about urgency? And kind of work that through.
And
I mean,
that's what
I
we
don't know.
do.
Is that, in your experience, like, what's
Yeah.
effective?
Yeah. Well, Eric, I think it's like anything else. When you look at, you approach a situation that you want to solve, and there are 100 options. There's 100 shiny objects. And
Yeah.
it's you can't do all 100. You can't, so, and that's what we work through with the pricing formula is it, it asks you to consider each one of these things and gives you some guidelines, because a lot of it is thinking out of the box. I mean, I'll give you an example, like an early stage person who maybe they just created their first course or first group coaching program, and they're like, I don't have any bonuses, like,
Right.
all
Yeah.
my content's in the course.
I put everything I got in there.
Yeah. But you can get creative in things you can do along those lines, in terms of repurposing older content. There's things that I do where I put my own take on something that I'm not necessarily an expert in necessarily, but I'm taking one thing and I put my own take on it and create a bonus out of it that it has value and it helps people. The other thing is other people's bonuses. You can actually, in your collaboration and working with JV partners and affiliates, you can actually, get somebody else's program, and let's say they sell it for $97.
Right.
And you approach them and say, look, or would you consider giving your program to my students for free? Well, why would they do that? Because if you give as a bonus to people in your program, that's not the same as somebody opting into an email list, right?
Yeah.
Those are the shiny object people. They opt into everything. They get all the free gifts. They never read them. You have buyers, so you're saying, yeah, can I
qualified? Yeah,
exactly. So, for a low end product, obviously I'm not going to give you a $500 product to give free to as a bonus, but if you have other people that have especially if it's complementary, right? You want your bonuses. The ideal way to look at a bonus to add to a program is, what are people's objections to buying your program, right? And that's the bonus you want to create. So a quick example would be like, if I have like a weight loss program that I'm offering, or just a healthy lifestyle program. Well, one of the objections is, well, what about when I go on vacation? That creates a great little bonus that you could create on how to go on vacation and maintain the weight or the healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
That is the main part of the program, right? So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm smiling because it's just like you've got so much depth on all these things. I could probably ask another prompting question about that, and we'd go into another awesome conversation. But
Well,
let me shift.
Feel free to shut me up, because I can talk all day too.
This is awesome. I'm going to shift though, and I'm going to say, because you talked about mistakes and we talked about myths, and you kind of mentioned also mistakes in pricing, but also like, what are the kind of common mistakes people do with group programs, and what should they do instead?
So the thing about group programs, I mean, my whole thing is creating profit in business, right? Instead of just revenue. And, it's for anyone who's doing one-on-one kind of coaching, or even a course, which has a, very fixed, length of time typically, right? It's a 3-week course, an 8-week course, whatever it is. Group coaching creates a situation, and then ultimately masterminds, where you build recurring revenue into your system. In group coaching, often it's not an ongoing forever thing. A mastermind can be, but in group coaching, it may be a longer thing. So maybe you're in the group coaching program for 3 months, not 3 weeks or 6 weeks. And that, again, just gives you a little bit more stability over that period of time for recurring revenue.
Yeah.
Group coaching is an easy way to get more value for your time, stop trading time for money. We talked before the show about that a little bit. In doing things like, group coaching is a great way to solve what I call the therapy model of pricing, which is, one session costs $100 and 4 sessions cost $350 and 8 sessions.
Right. It's like a bundle.
Keep lowering your price.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But you can design a group program, and then you're charging, you're lowering that price by bringing, and you're not one-to-one coaching, it's one to a many or one to a few coaching, so you're taking advantage of that leverage.
Yeah, and I make that point in a like a briefer way in my teaching also to folks. Just you if you're in one-on-one, it's time in, dollars out. I mean, just you're limited by how many hours you have available to serve people. And if you can even start with any kind of group thing, you leverage your time. But then the question is how to make it kind of sticky so that it's longer than just that like brief course kind of period. So it's awesome advice, awesome suggestions.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, as people are going through, I'll kind of lump the pricing and the group programs together, like, because it's all sort of around profitability. what are some of the roadblocks that people can run into?
So when people think about, I'm going to answer this relative to the group coaching and masterminding piece, because I think that people who aspire to launch a group coaching or a mastermind, one of the biggest fears that they come up with right away is, well, I don't have that much content. It's kind of like the same thing we just talked about with the bonuses, right? And that's a very legitimate fear, but there's all different types of group coaching and masterminds that you can run, including ones where there really isn't any content. It's just having a guide or someone to move things along. And then I'll also mention the difference between group coaching and a mastermind, because mastermind that term is used way too broadly for many different types of things.
Right.
Group coaching is where somebody shows up, they pray to the altar of the guru who's teaching, and then they get some Q&A, right? Mm-hmm. That's group coaching. And I by that off comment, I'm not knocking group coaching. Group coaching is great.
Well, they go to somebody because they really they've thought about it, and they're looking at it saying, this person knows what they're doing, and I want to have their guidance on it. Right. So yeah,
this person can mentor me, and I like them.
Right.
That's really the two key ingredients right there.
Yeah.
A mastermind is when you start to get the value of everyone in the group contributing to the greater good, right? Mm-hmm. So a mastermind includes collaboration, support. In a mastermind, you get to know everybody else in the mastermind. You're not just there as a spectator. You're participating. Right. A well-run mastermind forces participation from everybody in the group. Yeah. Not the entire meeting necessarily, but there's parts of it.
It's by design. You have periods of interaction with folks, and you're going to meet new people, and the exercises are designed in a way that create some connection. And then later on, like if you're like that.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing, and why I advocate masterminds, number one, you can charge more money for them. Yeah. But number two, it's less content driven. There's less pressure on me as the mastermind leader to be always the brilliant one, or
always speaking and teaching.
Yeah. Because that's so when you get entrepreneurs together, regardless of where they are at in their stage, entrepreneurs are some of the most giving people on the planet.
Yes.
And I fully believe that statement.
That's been my complete experience. Yes.
Yeah. They want to help each other. They want to contribute. And so, a good mastermind is going to set up the safe space for people to do that. Yeah. So that you build some trust with the other people in the group, and you're not afraid to show up in your mastermind and go, you know what, I just did a webinar and it bombed. I didn't convert, and be able to, you have that outlet to talk to somebody, and not just to get there, oh, don't worry about it, it's going to be fine, but to actually get some ideas for, all right, well, let's look at, where do you think it fell apart, and let's dive into that and coach through that. But a mastermind is when everybody in that group is going to feel empowered to actually speak up if they have a suggestion or an idea.
It's a safe space.
Yeah.
I totally understand. I had a mentor one time who described every marketing action that you do as an experiment, where I'm going to do this, I'm expecting this result, and then here's what I got. And sometimes you're like, woo. And other times it's just like you said, and you're like, this just did not work. And it feels like the world's, but it's like, okay, it's an experiment. Take a look at it. How can you tweak things? What are you going to do now? But trying to do that in your own head you can just drive yourself crazy. But if you have a group of folks that you can just bounce things off of, it's super.
So entrepreneurism is a lonely business. And the example that I always give is that whether you have a big company or you're a solopreneur and you just did a webinar that bombed, you're not going to typically go to even your significant other, certainly not your, siblings and your kids, and
Sure.
say, oh, great, how was your day today, honey? Well, I bombed the webinar, or, if I
They're
don't
like,
find
what's a
$20,000,
webinar?
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Or if I don't find $20,000 in cash in the next 2 weeks, I'm not meeting payroll, and the whole thing is coming crashing down. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you don't have those conversations because you don't want to bring anyone else into those fears that you live with every day as an entrepreneur of
Well,
how,
also, yeah,
yeah,
those folks, while they're dear to you, aren't really, they're not in that world. And so you can lay it out and they can say, oh, man, I feel for you. But in terms of like, everybody wants to help, and they just, that's not their space, like that's not,
right.
but if you have a group of folks that are in that world,
Right.
then it's a different conversation.
Yeah, and even often, we have friends that, are very successful in their corporate careers. They don't understand what it's
Right.
really like to be on the line like an entrepreneur is, and
Right.
even with your friends, sometimes those are
You could
hard
have somebody that's
conversations.
the VP of sales and marketing at XYZ, and XYZ is a pretty decent sized company or something like that, but it's not the same.
Yeah,
Not the same.
absolutely.
Well, that kind of brings me to what do you wish you'd known when you started out? What's the what kind of what lesson or lessons did you learn?
It's an easy answer for me because so I had a pretty good path. My first business, it wasn't, immediate success out of the gate, but over, first 5 years or so, we were doing pretty well. I was fortunate enough to get involved with an organization called Young Entrepreneurs Organization.
Mhm.
And in that, I got into my first peer group, which is different than group coaching and a mastermind. A true peer group, there is no leader or guru. Everyone is truly equals. There's someone is a moderator of the group, hopefully, who has some good facilitation skills, but you're all true peers.
Yeah.
So had I done that a few years prior, I really would have, had a much more success. And that's my advice to entrepreneurs of any age, size, whatever, is get into a peer group, whether it's a mastermind or a true peer group, because there's so much value you get from listening. And I believe in diversity of peer groups. If like even industry peer groups, it's great, but not, there's value in that, but people are typically thinking inside the same box.
Yeah.
And like in my first peer group, my very first peer group that I was ever in, I was in the fundraising business at the time, and I had a guy who was a manufacturer of the big, huge concrete planks that make the flooring in big buildings, precast
Oh,
concrete.
wow. Yeah.
And I came out of my first meeting. Well, first of all, I left that first meeting going, oh my God, I found my tribe. But I came away thinking about that person. I was like, our businesses are so different, like night and day.
Right.
Like, I don't, how are we ever going to help each other? And when you are in a peer group like that or a mastermind, what you start to recognize is that in business, we all have the same problems. We have sales and marketing problems. We have cash flow problems. We have process problems. We have people problems.
Mm.
All time management, all of that is universal to trying to run a business. And to me, it's that diversity of thought from somebody who's not even familiar with my business that's
Right.
going to challenge me and ask me questions that I'm like, so like in this one peer group I was in for 17 years, the same 10 people every single month for a 3-4 hour meeting. And I don't think I ever once in all those years walked out of one of those meetings without thinking to myself, I never would have even thought to ask that question,
Yeah.
right? Because somebody's coming from outside my industry and my even personality type and that kind of thing, and asking questions to try to help you solve problems. So
Yeah. And the other thing that came to mind when you talked about being in that group for so long to me, continuity of relationships over time, it's one of those things where it's a special thing. I mean, it doesn't happen just by kind of randomness either. You know, you were fortunate to be able to put yourself or find yourself in a situation where you had a group like that, and I bet you're still in touch with a bunch of those folks today.
Well, I mentioned my story of losing everything and living in my friend's basement. Guess where that friend came from?
Yeah.
That same peer group that I had been in at that point for 12 years.
Yeah, it makes all the difference.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the people I've been in entrepreneurial peer groups or masterminds with over are my lifelong friends. I mean, they're I reach out to them with any need.
Yeah, yeah. We'd go on, but I'm just mindful of keeping this. Well, we have gone on, but so maybe what we'll do is say, how can people reach you? I'm sure folks are going to want to get in touch with you, Jay.
My email address is very easy. It's jay@fairbrother.com. So jay@fair brother.com.
Awesome. And rumor has it that you may have a gift for our listeners.
I do. On my website, which is the Profit Architects, plural, Profit Architect, theprofitarchitects.com. I have, if you do a slash and then pricing dash mistakes. So the profitarchitects.com / pricing dash mistakes. There's a download on there on the most common mistakes that people make in pricing, and how much profit you can add if you just avoid these mistakes.
Yes, and that's profit as in money, PROFIT.
Correct.
Yeah, cool. Jay, it's been a great conversation. I really appreciate, and what great use, what not only interesting but actionable conversation here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Eric. I enjoyed being here.
Okay, take care. Bye now.
All right.